Hey there, how there, ho there, Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to a special Cutter Degrassi Unpopular Opinion. I know I've done over 200 of them. I think I did a couple of unofficial unpopular opinions after I hit number 200. But basically, I've just realized that this really needs to be a Degrassi Unpopular Opinion. And here's why. Well, I was influenced by a post by Remarkable Star 4678, who said, and this was done 12 days ago, and this, for context, is being taped on June 22nd, 2025. And basically, the post was this scene cost Raditch's job. And the screen grab is of like a screen grab on the Degrassi YouTube channel of the season 4 thing when Raditch is trying to do some stuff and Rick decides to barge in on a In Time Stand Still Part 1. Well, I'll explain it more, but anyway, it said Raditch should have stopped what he was doing and comfort Rick. Instead, he told him to toughen up and instead led to a tragic shooting. Of course, the scene is when Rick goes to Raditch to try to get Jimmy thrown off the Wacky Brain team in Time Stand Still. Anyhow, there were some comments. Jess Laney said, "This was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't blame Raditch." Someone said that they hated what the writers did to his character. He was more caring in the original series. Has fans said no school administrator would be this careless in today's world. Rick was a walking set of red flags. So anyway, yeah. Mysterious Nerd said Raditch should have been a lot more involved to make sure that the obvious didn't happen because anyone could see that Rick was going to get constant shit. A lot of people said he was allowed back only because the accident didn't occur on school property and all that. Someone said, I think we're forgetting that Degrassi is a public school and therefore they're legally required to accept any student, whether they have a shifting history or not. The principal could suggest to go somewhere else, but they can't do anything about it. The kid and parents want to go to that school. So that's what it was. Of course, I put my thoughts in and all that. So this unpopular opinion does have to do with the time sensitive thing, and it does have to do with that scene. Basically put, the Degrassi unpopular opinion is that Raditch did not just let Rick down, he let the school down. Yeah, Raditch didn't let Rick down, he let the whole school down, including Rick, obviously. So here's how it is. So Raditch, played by Dan Woods, was this guy who was the English teacher in Degrassi Junior High for the 3 seasons and was caring. He was a bit of a bully to Yick, but then he realized he needed to change his tone and he make Yick make a peace bond. He is a little precocious at times, but he's just caring about his students and all that. Dan Woods was very young when he took that job. In the Journal Vision Degrassi reunion in 1999, he said that he was just coming out of theater school, trying to be the apprentice, but didn't think he would be the master. You know, the guy that everyone had to look up to. Anyway, Dan Woods also said that he was going to be a caretaker for the city of York. Well, when it was a part, like, not really amalgamated into Toronto, but yeah, York. But yeah, Dan Woods did a good job and all that. It had some good storylines. He suggested to Joey to repeat grade 8 because he's going to fumble the next year and all that. And then he becomes the vice principal in Degrassi High when Joey is shocked, thinking he's got rid of Raditch, but no, he didn't. Raditch becomes the VP, kind of has it in for Joey and vice versa, but they make a peace bond. And, Raditch was the one who Snake ran to when he found Claude's dead body in Showtime in Degrassi High. And, Raditch did a good job. Well, he took Snake seriously and ran for the bathroom and all that. Raj was also there too to comfort some students in a room, including Joanne and 2/3 of Dwayne's group. I think it was Eric and Tabitha. Anyway, so yeah, Trish, the one with the mohawk, was also there. So basically, Raj says that we all feel overwhelmed sometimes, but we don't take our own lives because once we do, everything's over. And then, he's okay and all that. And then he actually says the last word in Degrassi High before school's out when Trish asks him to dance. And he says, sure. And then basically, there's a lot of dancing at the end credits and nothing else. So, anyhow, Raditch was made principal of Degrassi Community School in Next Gen, and in season one, he wasn't profiled too much. He was there for the Degrassi reunion, of course, and he was there to tell Emma off after Emma wants to know about the Squeegee Kids and those morning announcements being biased. She says, "Why don't you write an op-ed?" Basically, get rid of her. And then he gets mad at Spinner for mooning the school when he doesn't take his ADD pill. The only time we get to hear about the ADD pill from Spinner and all that. So, of course, he gives it to Jimmy for basketball, and Spinner doesn't rat out Jimmy and all that. And then you got yourself the fact that in season two, his main thing was fight for your right when he and Emma clashed over the GMO foods debate and all that. Emma tries to make a strong presentation for non-GMO foods to Raditch, but Raditch just says we have a budget. We can't do anything about it. We're lucky to have a cafeteria. Emma doesn't take it well, thinking that Raditch is trying to shoot her off. She hands out flyers. Raditch basically says no and takes the flyers away from Emma. Emma then decides to wave the white flag, and then a cafeteria commercial mocks her fuse and she gets pissed off. So she practically causes trouble with Toby in a food tray. Raditch wants to suspend her for the rest of the day. Could have put her in detention, but Emma doesn't like it. She protests outside school grounds and is upset that Raditch wants her to apologize for everything, basically take everything blame. Snake says that as administrator, I can't do much, but as a parent, I'm all for your thing. So Emma writes an apology to Sheila and the cafeteria crew for the food fight, but then says that her rights were trampled on and outs Raditch's policy, saying that Raditch is threatening me with a suspension and I'm going to take it. Basically sticking it in Raditch's face. Season 3, he does the whole Saturday detention thing when it could have been easily a detention Monday to Fridays or even a suspension of sort. Like Sean stealing stuff from the school. Why didn't Raditch just suspend him? Toby and Jimmy doing the grades on the school computer. That's a suspendable offense. Ellie cutting class? Not really. I think Raditch took pity on her because of the whole Ellie cutting thing. And Hazel, well, I don't think that's suspendable with looking at bad sites. So yeah, it was just basically there to assert his authority and all that. Although we did get to see a lighter side of Raditch when he did the Swiss ball and all that. It was funny. Also, I forgot to mention about season 2 is that he comforted Craig in Tears Are Not Enough. That's the season 2 finale when Craig and Craig's dad dies in a car crash and Craig doesn't know how to feel. And Raditch tells Craig that he can stay home for the rest of the semester. He can't fail because Raditch would not let that happen. And then when Craig goes nuts at the school dance, Raditch basically tells everyone to let Craig blow off his steam. And it works. Terry comforts Craig, and Raditch doesn't do a damn thing about it. Then season 4 happens. He talks to Armstrong in the season 4 premiere about budgeting and all that because Armstrong wants some stuff, and Raditch says, I don't have the money for it. And then, of course, Raditch lets Rick back into school, and everyone is mad at him. And, of course, stupidly, there's a deleted scene that shows that Marco and Alex, who are vice president of student council, basically wants Raditch to think twice about his mistakes. But Raditch basically said that he doesn't have a criminal charge. I understand. And, he should have the thing. The thing is, the one thing he should have done was go on the video system and announce why Rick is welcome back and all that. Because then some students will understand that, Raditch's hands are tied. But that might not have quelled the need for mob mentality and for justice. as, of course, the Orange Ribbon campaign happened under Raditch's watch. And it was Raditch's fault because of the fact that he ticked Emma off by saying, this is not one of your stupid crusades. So logically, Raditch had some gumption saying that to Emma. But the fact of the matter is that Emma did the Orange Ribbon campaign to gain friends. She also did it to stick it to Raditch and all that. But the fact of the matter is that, Rick was back in the school. He was being bullied and all that. It seemed that the teachers didn't do anything to protect him. And then, of course, time sense still happens when Rick spray paints Jimmy, his tormentor's cars as revenge, basically saying that how would you like it if the shoe's on the other foot because he's being tormented. Unfortunately, it gets the dander of Spinner, Jay, and Alex up. They want to go to Raditch, but Sean tells them not to because then Raditch will want to know why Rick spray painted their cars. So, of course, that was when Jimmy's put on the Wacky Brain team because of Heather's mono, which Craig might have had, who knows. But the fact of the matter is that Rick wants to go to Raditch and want to know about Jimmy, and then says that Jimmy's bothering him and makes no qualms about it. Raditch takes it at face value and says that it's probably just a cry for him to gain friends. And he basically chastises Rick, saying that time and time again, you got to make a better effort to make friends, Richard. And shoos him off. Says, come back when something serious is happening. Fortunately for Rick, he and Jimmy do bond because of how Toby's being beaten up by Spinner and Jay. Because now that Toby's affiliated with Rick, they can do that. So, of course, you got the whole mess with the school and Rick with the gun nearly shooting Paige, but choosing not to after Paige calms him down. And then after being tricked by Jay and Spinner, he shoots Jimmy. He then tries to go after Emma, but Sean wrestles him with a gun and shoots him. And, of course, Rick is dead. The fact of the matter was that, Raditch had the audacity to try to demand answers from Snake and all that, and Snake blows him off, saying, where's this foresight and all that. So then, of course, Raditch has to deal with the school being on the 6 o'clock news, and then on Monday he opens up to grief counselors, not really for schoolwork and all that. And then in Voices Carrie, he looks at the run-through of Dracula and doesn't like it because it's gory and, the offense of what happened. Basically, they try to tell him that it's good for the school, but Raditch just wants a hokey musical, and you can see right through him that he just wants everything to be normal because of the fact that, the school's in a bad light and all that. Liberty and JT do the Raditch's song, pisses off Raditch so much he decides to throw him in detention, and then he's gone soon in the next episode. But my point here is that everyone on Reddit recently, the past few months, has basically been saying all this stuff about Raditch. He didn't help Rick out. I know. It's understandable. Raditch not helping Rick out was bad and all that. But you have to deconstruct that scene. And basically the scene is that, Rick is asking Raditch for help with Jimmy. He wants Jimmy thrown off the Wacky Brain team. Does Raditch have that authority? Maybe not. But the way Rick says it to Raditch, he doesn't say the magic words bullying or tormenting me. Or basically a form of bullying. Because if he said that, Raditch would have definitely taken Rick at face value. Raditch would have believed Rick and maybe done all that. But when you also look at the scene as well, is that what proof does Rick have? He doesn't really have proof. Raditch is a concrete thinker. And, Raditch wants proof. But Raditch, of course, screwed up with the whole thing saying that come back to me when something serious happens. Fair enough, because, Rick's probably just wanting friends and all that. But, of course, Raditch gets it incorrect, and it's all about the Wacky Brain thing. Because, Jimmy's a tormentor. He's still considered a tormentor before Rick tells him about Toby being beaten up. And then Jimmy switches sides and, of course, pisses off Jay and Spinner, who had the modus operandi, fighting on that. But when you look at everything, it's the fact that Raditch did let Rick down. You're right. And Raditch should have easily said that he needed proof. And if Rick had the proof, then Raditch would believe him. Obviously, Rick kind of had proof because, he was painted and feathered, and Raditch saw it on the computer. And he's like, oh my God. And then he goes into meltdown mode and basically wants to find out who did it, the perpetrators are. Of course, Raditch never gets his answers. Like, the problem is, it looks like Raditch is not actively looking for answers and all of that. It's like, if Raditch did his job, he would be looking for the perpetrators to the yellow paint feathers. But of course, the shooting is top in mind. And he has to throw that to the side. But there are 3 things you have to know about it. Of course, my three points of persuasion is going to come up. But I'm going to tell you what I said in the post by Remarkable Star. I said, quote, in my opinion, the scene when Rick comes to Raditch's office is not what got him charged. It was one of the moments that snowballed into him losing his job. Let's not forget that he led Rick back into school, pissing off the student body, and that's one of the reasons why they took the Orange Ribbon campaign a little too seriously. Of course, Rick's abuse to Terry was the main reason, but I think that they were mad at Raditch for doing nothing and basically declaring mob mentality. I agree that he should have helped Rick, but his penchant for being concrete thinking took over, and that's when he snapped back at Rick. If Raditch was caring towards Rick, he would have easily said the next time something happens, with evidence. Tell him the next time something happens. Rick didn't have the evidence needed to convince Raditch to do something. Let's not forget that Rick didn't become straightforward and bypass saying Jimmy was bullying him. His way weird of saying things that Raditch thinks it was about friendship. Let's also remember that him snapping at Snake twice, first time was in a deleted scene, and seemingly avoiding the issue with Snake, pointing out flaws, probably led to Snake having a grudge against him. And also the aftermath. Instead of calming the students down and getting down to the bottom of the paint and feathers debacle, which led to Rick snapping, he was trying to kibosh Dracula and put a sunny musical in place because he felt like Degrassi was getting hated on, and rightfully so. But his efforts to save face was the last straw. How many people probably cried tears when he left? At least the show gave him a farewell scene. But my topic sentence, as I almost always say, is Raditch may have ignored Rick, but more than that, he ignored the students' pleas to have Rick removed. The students had a point. They didn't want Rick back after hearing what Rick did to Terry, a beloved character, and, being blackholed in a sense. They wanted justice for Terry, fair enough, but Raditch did not help them out at all. If anything, he let the school down. He didn't let Rick down. Yes, he did let Rick down, but he let the whole school down, as I said, including Rick. The fact of the matter is that, if he had listened to the students in the first place, then probably, things would have been better. But let's also remember one thing, and one key thing is that, Raditch's aftermath. Like, we're looking at this in a 2025 light, whereas this happened in 2004. Things have changed in the past 2 decades. In 2025, he would have been gone, baby gone. He would have been gone on the Monday after the shooting. But 2004, they kind of let him off the hook. Raditch, I think, was given the aftermath to try to fix the school, but he failed. And that's when the school board finally said enough was enough and basically reassigned him. They could have fired him, but they also kind of figured that Raditch would snap back at them for not doing things. I agree that Rick was let down by Raditch, but I also disagree with the fact that that was the only problem. Raditch screwed up with the students. He didn't listen to their pleas. He basically shooed everyone off. He pissed off Emma, in a sense. He probably pissed off Marco and Alex. And he pissed off the student body. He could have done an assembly. He could have done an announcement. And basically, if they go after Rick, then, Raditch can't be blamed for it. And then the aftermath. If he had just gone through with finding out the paint and feathers ploy and all that, he could have still lost his job, but he would have went out in a higher light. And that's how I see it. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.